She does that to her coworkers too.
What? What did she do?
I mean, she's like nice, but she's like also terrifying.
Oh, like the underlying
But she's
nice
also
meme.
the only thing that holds them together. So I mean,
Right.
First speaker, last call.
We prepped the wrong case. Sorry, happened the other time.
ow.
We did that before. We did that before.
We've done that so many times.
I remember Sutton this. Wait, was it Sutton this first one?
Alright, who's
I
first?
know someone did.
Oh, right.
No, it was
Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
They prepped the wrong sign.
Oh.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Stressed out right now.
It looks pretty heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get the water.
I know.
Go to the SLC fountain.
Okay, will you excuse me?
Right. Okay.
Oh, yeah, well, like, excuse me. Go to the
As the first speaker of the Women's Side, I strongly affirm the resolution that NATO should send ground troops to defeat Bashar of Syria. So, the definition of NATO, it stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it's an intergovernmental military alliance based on the North Atlantic Treaty, which was signed on April 4th, 1940. Yeah, that's it for definitions. So, and the criteria we're going to be studying today is net benefits. So our plan for this round is that NATO should send 10,000 ground troops to Syria to help the rebels fight against Bashar al-Assad. Our first contention is that there are already so many casualties, and the only hope is to remove him from power. So right now, there's a civil war going on, so there are many people dying. But not only are many people dying, but this person in power is causing these deaths because, Bashar al-Assad is a dictator, and he's a minority leader who's leading a majority. So with this power that he has, he's killing civilians, and he's also using chemical weapons on his own people. So chemical weapons are a very extreme measure, especially in wars. In normal wars, even when it's not a civil war, people usually try to stay clear of these weapons because they're very inhumane, because they torture the people before they even die. So then, not only is he using the chemical weapons, but he's using it on his own people. So this is a very extreme measure, and it shows that he is not fit for power, and he should not be in power if he's not even able to save the lives of his civilians, and he's orchestrating the killings that are going on right now. So, also, just to expand on the chemical weapons, an example of this is the mustard gas, and this causes extreme pain, and it's in some cases even worse than death, because it causes this incredible pain that carries on. It's a prolonged death for these people. So then it's drawn out, and it'd be less painful to get shot in the head once than to go through this experience, because after all this, they might not even die. And that's a terrible torture for his people. So not only is he killing people, but he's also torturing them. So this shows that he's not a good leader, and by taking him out of power, we're going to be saving these people's lives. And there's already so many casualties amongst these civilians. So by taking him out of power, in the long run, it really will have a really positive impact because he is in the lead in this part. So he's a terrible leader, and he's also a really bad influence. So then if we don't take him out of power, then Syria will lose its only hope. Because with him in power, they're not going to be able to move on from this conflict, and they're not going to be able to expand. So, or improve. Not expand. So our second contention is that sending ground troops is more efficient, and it's more moral than with airstrikes. So by sending ground troops, and in our plan we specified that we want to send 10,000 ground troops to Syria. So yeah, that's enough. Okay. So when we're sending ground troops, it's going to be more efficient because there are going to be people sent into this. So then they're going to be able to control what's going on. And this large mass of people, they're going to have a lot more resources. They're going to have a lot more power than just sending small groups of people and also doing airstrikes. So by sending these ground troops, they're enforcing that what they want to happen is going to happen. Because right now, the rebels are trying to fight against Bashar al-Assad, but they're not doing very well because they don't have the resources and they don't have the power they need. And they're already being helped by other organizations, but even then, they're still struggling a lot. So without the help of NATO, they're not going to be able to actually get out of where they are right now and actually be able to fight back. So by sending these ground troops, they're going to be providing aid to the rebels who are already fighting, and by giving them more power and more people to fight with them, they're going to be able to actually achieve what they're trying to reach, and that is to throw Bashar al-Assad out of power. So, also with airstrikes have always been a very controversial topic, and by sending in airstrikes, NATO would be causing controversy amongst the people, and this would cause a bunch of distrust and distraught amongst the people and the civilians who are actually in Syria. So, if NATO was to send in troops, they're trying to help what's happening in Syria, so they have to have the trust of the people there. So, by sending in airstrikes as opposed to ground troops, they're going to be starting a bunch of
Why would sending airstrikes cause this distress?
So I'm going to get into that. And we still have a question too. So why we think that sending airstrikes would have distress would be because when these people are sending in the airstrikes, they're not actually going to be there. They're not going to be witnessing what's happening. They're just going to be seeing it through a screen, through a computer. Just like drones. Wait, what? Those are drones. Okay, so if they were using airstrikes in the form of drones, these people are not actually going to be there. They're not going to be experiencing. They're not going to be seeing what's happening. So with ground troops, they're actually going to be seeing what's happening here, and they're going to be seeing the impact of what's happening. But with airstrikes, it's just going to be a power that's flying over the head of the people, and they're not actually going to be seeing who's helping them, what's going to be happening, and they'll never know where these airstrikes are heading. What are they going to do? So this is going to cause distress amongst the people. So by sending in airstrikes, although it may help, it would more than that, it would cause this distrust amongst the people. So by sending in ground troops, it's in the long run better. So yeah. So just to expand back to my first contention and connect the second contention to the first contention. So by taking Bashar al-Assad out of power, we're going to be helping civilians. And by sending ground troops, we're actually going to be saving lives as well. So both these contentions are going to go back into saving lives. By doing this, by sending ground troops, by having NATO send ground troops to Syria and take Bashar al-Assad out of power, I don't have time. I don't know what to do. Okay. So by taking him out of power, we're going to be ultimately helping Syria. And by doing this, we're going to be saving the lives of civilians. So by taking him out of power, we're going to be stopping the dictatorship that he holds right now. And we're going to be getting somebody who's better and who's more fit to rule, to actually control what's happening in Syria. And when the civil war ends, we're going to be, as I said before, saving lives. So this is the most important part of the rest. So as the first speaker of the third side, I strongly recommend today's resolution.
Oh my god.
Let me say it.
Okay, violence civilians.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Try to start now. As leader of the negation team, I strongly negate the resolution that NATO should send ground troops to defeat Bashar al-Assad of Syria. I'll be first going over the affirmative team's case, then moving on to the negation team's contention. So we accept all of the definitions and the plan of the negation or of the affirmative team. So I'll be going on into their contentions. Their first contention deals with how Bashar al-Assad is like basically a horrible ruler, and they need to remove him out of power. And basically, what the negation and the affirmative team lists like what he does is wrong, like the chemical weapons that's harming the people. But what the affirmative team is doing is that they're assuming that the ground troops will work and that the ground troops will actually solve all these problems. But in reality, they prove no evidence, no reason why ground troops will actually work and help get Bashar al-Assad out of his rulership. Additionally, we understand, the negation team understands and agrees that the Bashar al-Assad is bad, but will ground troops really help them end the situation? And there's been really no evidence of when ground troops really have helped, and we'll be going over that in the negation team's case. Additionally, if there are chemical weapons, wouldn't it be easier to do things like airstrikes, where the fight against ground troops, because fighting against chemical weapons with ground troops really wouldn't make sense in that way. And so it's not a good tactic or strategy to hit and defeat Bashar al-Assad. So their second contention deals with how sending in more ground troops is more efficient and more moral. However, 10,000 ground troops really isn't enough to do a big damage in stopping Bashar al-Assad from his power. The U.S. sent 100,000 troops to Iraq before, and so 10,000 is a really short or small percentage of that, and it really won't make a dent, really won't get him out of power, which relates back to their first contention of how they're just assuming that these ground troops will work. In reality, they won't. So all these benefits and this idea that they'll bring peace to this area, to Syria especially, with ground troops really isn't plausible or reasonable. Additionally, when you're sending ground troops, it's less moral because you have the ground troops experience post-traumatic you know what? PTS after this because PTSD. D. Okay, you know what? Stop. Okay. And this is because when they're coming back, it's basically harming them after all this, trauma that they faced in Syria on the ground. And then when they're coming back to whatever nations they were sent from, it's just a harder way for them to adjust. But with airstrikes, they'll be less distraught because they're actually not physically there. Additionally, my opponent stated that that the people will not trust them because they will not be witnessing these soldiers fighting there. But wouldn't it be worse if we witnessed soldiers actually fighting with each other? Because we'll just see more bloodshed, more of the people, and it's very horrific. And you don't want people to actually see that bloodshed. Where my opponents are suggesting that it's a good idea for these Syrian civilians to look at that, it really isn't because it's gonna have their own type of trauma on them. And so now I'll be going on to the negation case. Okay. So our first contention deals with how we're giving into all of Bashar al-Assad's wants. And this is because when we're sending ground troops, it's basically an easier way for our enemies to recruit more troops that could easily be are on the fence and could easily go into their army. So we can already see the influence that terrorist groups have in America. How a lot of people like San Bernardino, how they already had ties to the terrorist groups. How these terrorists already have ties. So people are being recruited from all around the world through only social media already, and so by bringing in these troops directly to Syria, to the battleground, we're basically giving them a direct contact, a direct way to go and join their army. And so we're actually really not helping defeat this problem, defeat al-Assad. Instead, we're adding more to this government. So the impacts of this is that we're increasing the size of al-Assad's military more to use against us, and especially we're giving away possible American information because when we're sending down these troops know different strategies, different American information and intel against al-Assad and other terrorist groups. And so when these Americans end up going into and joining their army, that information can travel and be used against us. So that would not be a good idea, and it'll be harmful to the Americans, which does not relate to net benefits. Yes, okay. And what? Okay. Our second contention deals with how it actually adds to furthering conflicts and how it's ineffective. This is because, as you've seen before in Iraq and Afghanistan, by bringing in military ground troops into the battlefield, it'll actually cause more chaos. A decade of war with Iraq should have brought them more peace, or should have had them establish a stable government, which is kind of but instead that really doesn't help them. Instead, there's even more bloodshed in Iraq that we can't get out of. Additionally, Russia supports al-Assad because they believe that they have similar values, and so they're willing to help each other. For example, Russia sent S-300 air missiles to the regime, and so by defeating al-Assad this way, we'll be causing more conflict with Russia, and we depend on Russia for different minerals and resources like uranium. Okay. And so basically, intervention does not create peace, but instead there will be more war and bloodshed. And our last contention deals with how we'll be saving lives because what? And you know what? I have 23 seconds, 17 seconds. Okay, So lives. So basically, we're putting these soldiers' lives where other alternate. Okay. So we're putting these soldiers' lives at risk, and so we're killing more people because they are certainly going to die on the battlefields. And for every 100,000 soldiers, approximately 8,000 dies. And in correlating to this, that means around 800 people will die because of this. And we're just sentencing themselves to death. And so we're really not relating to death benefits because we're killing people. We're adding more to this fight, and we're fueling the fight. And so because of these reasons, I strongly agree with the resolution.
Wait, how many points do we have?
Lives.
Just keep swimming. Hold them here.
One of the
basketball
games.
Wait, I'm not.
I think their name is supposed to. Oh wait, it's 4:00. That's why.
Why is mine so red? I mean, hot.
Alright.
Well, we have a boombox today in Mardini.
Same, just do same.
Why don't we do
So as a brief update, I'm gonna discuss their reputations to our case and then go on to their case. The time starts now. Okay, so their refutation for our first contention was about how we're just assuming that the ground truths will work, and we never showed that they will actually work. And they failed to realize our second contention. Not failed to realize, they did realize the second contention, but the point is, with that refutation, they sort of ignored our second contention for a while. And we actually answered this in our second contention about how ground troops are more efficient and they will work because they are directly attacking, so you don't have that, like, it's more sure that they're going to directly attack. Unlike airstrikes and drones, where they could easily miss and end up killing more innocent people rather than a direct attack. And so they also mentioned how 10,000 troops will not be enough to help stop this war. But really, these 10,000 troops are only from NATO. But you need to consider the amount of troops that are already sent. There probably are already a lot of troops sent right now, so another 10,000 troops will be pretty beneficial to them because more troops, more help is good. And yeah. So then we talked about for our second contention, they refuted it with the PTSD suffered by the ground troops and about
Are the troops that you say that are already there from NATO?
no, not from NATO. There are already troops sent not from NATO.
Right.
These ones are just from NATO.
Okay.
And so they refuted our points, our second contention with the PTSD suffered by troops and how the airstrikes. Not that. Yeah, and about how airstrikes will also not be good for people because of trauma. And then they also mentioned about how the soldiers fighting on the ground will cause the civilians to see trauma because of all the bloodshed. Really, they just somewhat are agreeing to our point about how the drones and airstrikes will. Wait, they did not agree. Sorry. They said that airstrikes there will be no trauma because of the airstrikes to the citizens. There will be trauma if the citizens see the bloodshed because they're literally seeing blood. Yeah. Get what I mean? Jeez. Same thing. So the point is, even with airstrikes, the citizens will still have trauma either way because it's probably like a bomb or something dropping down from the air, which probably is pretty traumatic if a missile hits you. Well, not necessarily you, but something. It's something. The point is that those airstrikes will also cause trauma, and that's even worse because more innocent lives are being killed because you don't even know. Well, you do know, but there's a high possibility of innocent lives being more innocent lives being killed because you're not directly seeing who exactly are you hitting, who exactly are you targeting, and that's negative. So, And yes, of course, there will be some trauma due to all that bloodshed, but it will be less trauma than if we're just sending in these drone and airstrikes because they are directly killing or attacking the ones that are the ones that they're directly attacking those who should be attacked, not the ones who are innocent. So if you think about it, less innocent lives are being killed. And moving on case. Wait, no, not moving on case, moving off case. Moving off case onto their case. Wait. Moving, yeah, you're. About the first contention, so they're talking about how by sending in these ground troops, it's giving more possibility of American information to be given, but the troops being sent in are not only American troops. These troops are, since NATO includes a good portion of Europe, it's not only going to leak American information. Yeah, point is, it's not only American information, so there won't be a lot of information leaked. So, and the possibility is probably not that high of a bunch of information leaks, because probably not all those troops will know such great detail about what's all those American information. Maybe they will know a bit, but not a lot. So shouldn't do too much harm. That was terrible. And so they started talking about how we're giving into the needs of the guy. I don't know how to say his name. We're giving into their wants, and really, if you think about it, yes, maybe they do want us to attack, but if we don't attack, if we don't send in more troops, then there won't be. If we don't start helping them out, the conflict is going to just keep on going. It's not going to be solved anytime soon. If we slowly start putting more troops, for example, like these 10,000 troops from NATO, then eventually we're going to start slowly solving this conflict. It'll be solved. It will be solved because instead of just doing nothing about it and not really doing anything, if we don't do anything, then we're not going to be solving anything. And so moving on to the second contention about how the ground troops will be ineffective and it will cause further conflict. As I said before, if we don't help anything, if we don't do anything, then the conflicts will become even longer and they'll remain there and it'll keep on going, which is bad. And we probably want to stop this conflict soon because it's been going on for pretty long. Many people are suffering, especially the citizens there, and many casualties have been happening. So we want to stop this conflict soon. So if you don't put in any troops, like even the smallest amount of troops, for example, they say like this 10,000 is small, but really it isn't, because there are already troops there. If we keep us in help, these conflicts will eventually be solved, which is a good thing. And about the third contention, we actually refute their third contention with our points. In our second contention, we refuted their third contention. Yeah.
I'm drinking.
Do you have a fever?
Joking. Don't stop. I'm tired. I have a headache.
Like clean water?
Clean water, yes.
Water fountain?
That's not fall.
She wants water that you didn't drink.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
actually have some.
I have a germaphobe.
Actually, have some, like slow ball.
Oh my god, bless your heart.
Okay.
No, I'm looking at like. Hey, that's crazy ones. Actually,
I don't drink from other people's water bottles because I always have my own.
Good job, Lily.
This is gonna take a while. Just
What?
to
Well, I was like,
Okay,
okay,
go
everybody
down.
just look at Meghan. She's so
I
hard.
can't
She's
do
so bad at
this.
swallowing pills. Like once I swallowed a pill dry, and she looked at me for so long. Like, what did you just do to yourself?
Advils are really small though.
Yeah.
So
So the ones that I drink are like this big.
I don't like the taste of it.
Wait, okay. Second try this time.
Oh my god. This is so pathetic.
If you let it sit in your mouth, it's gonna taste really good.
Yeah.
I know, it gets really good.
It's gonna be even
I did
harder
it!
to swallow if you don't swallow it.
That was like a record.
Alright, Ariel, go.
Okay, turn starts now. As a member of the negation team, I strongly negate the resolution that NATO should send ground troops to defeat Bashar al-Assad. And so, as a brief roadmap, I will first be refuting my opponent's case and moving on to address the negation team's case. Okay, so first, the negation team stated that, so the negation team stated that my partner's refutation about how the first contention is only stating why Bashar al-Assad is bad. They refuted it by saying that they explained that in the second contention. Well, that basically means that their entire first contention is useless because they're just saying that Bashar al-Assad is bad. Well, the negation team agrees, yes, Bashar al-Assad is bad, but what we're debating in this debate is how we should combat them, not whether they're bad or not. So, judges, you can just completely ignore my opponent's first yes.
So was your refutation that we're assuming the ground troops will work, or was it that we're just saying that he's bad?
Our point is that your first contention has no reason whatsoever why ground troops will work.
Which one was your refutation? What was your refutation to our first contention?
The refutation to the first contention is that you're only saying why Bashar al-Assad is bad, and we didn't say anything about why ground troops will be working. And so it has nothing to do with that. And so the only explanation they gave was in the second contention about how it's more efficient and moral. And so, moving on to their second refutation, my opponents are saying that, well, even though the ground troops will cause PTSD, even though the ground troops will cause more bloodshed, even though the ground troops are affecting more people, airstrikes are better. I mean, ground troops are better. And then, so they're saying that there will be more blood if we send in airstrikes. However, airstrikes affect less people in that we're not affecting the soldiers as well, which my partner already went over. And also, ground troops manage to spread the conflict over a larger territory, which has been proven over many, many experiences in the past. So, according to a study from the Atlantic, so basically, they stated that if we send in ground troops to fight Bashar al-Assad, what's going to happen is that the conflict is most likely going to spread over Central Asia into different territories that so far have not been affected yet, which means we're going to kill more people and affect more people with U.S. NATO militants, stuff like that. Okay, and then also, so my opponents also only plan to send in 10,000 troops, and they said that they're going to depend on the current troops already there. However, sending in my opponent's entire argument is based off the assumption that we already have a lot of troops there. And so that means that sending in 10,000 more isn't going to make much of a difference, and it's going to affect NATO a lot, because why go to all the trouble of sending only 10,000 troops and not making much of a difference when sending these troops is going to bring on a ton of detriments toward the countries? For example, getting on Russia's bad side, as my partner already mentioned. And so moving on to the negation team's case. So the negation team's first contention dealt with information loss toward Bashar al-Assad's militants. And so my opponent's refutation to this was that, well, it's not only American information that's going to be lost, it's also all the other countries' information that's going to be lost. I fail to see how this is a refutation because my opponents are only saying that a ton of other information is going to be lost, which completely supports the negation side. Yes, that's even worse. Not only is American information going to be lost to the Bashar al-Assad, so is so many other countries.
So that basically just supports and strengthens our side. And then my opponents also stated that the probability is really low, but do we really want to risk it for these 10,000 troops that aren't going to make much of a difference? Okay. And then the second contention dealt with how it adds to further conflict by bringing in military ground troops. My opponent's only refutation to this was that sending more of them will solve the conflict. They didn't say anything about why sending more will solve the conflict, and 10,000 frankly isn't that much when it comes to war. And so it's not going to be much of a help, as we've stated before. It's giving so many more detriments, which we've stated before. And so all of this is theoretical. All of this that my opponents are saying is theoretical. They've brought up no examples where this has worked before. And the negation team can say that it hasn't worked before in Iraq. It barely worked in Libya. So why would it work now? And so it's extremely repetitive and has no explanations whatsoever. And so the third contention of the negation team dealt with lives of the militants, including the 8,000 out of 100,000 statistic, and including the lives of all the people there, that because sending in ground troops is going to spread out the fighting over a larger area. And so my opponent's refutation was that they refuted this before. But actually, they haven't refuted this before, because I've just refuted this earlier in my speech by saying that we're going to affect people in areas that haven't been affected yet, and we're going to be affecting the ground troops. So for all these reasons, I strongly negate the resolution.
Meghan.
I'm very tired. I'll just close myself off. Okay. We're ready. Okay. As the last speaker for the negation team, I would. No, start over. Okay. As last speaker for the negation team, we're trying to negate the resolution that NATO should send ground troops to defeat Bashar al-Assad of Syria. I'll be going over voter issues in this speech, and so our first voter issue deals with how the affirmative team provided no evidence or no reasoning behind their own contentions, with the first contention refuted and very based off of their second contention. We can just look at their second contention and analyze it. First off, they believe that airstrikes will bring more distraught, and they basically encourage the civilians in Syria to look at the damage that's being done, which is actually a harm instead of a benefit. They believe that looking at the bloodshed that is going to happen will actually benefit the people, as they can see that it's not their civilians that are being killed, but the enemy. However, isn't this worse? And just knowing the fact that the enemy is losing is much better due to the fact, because by seeing someone being killed is a traumatizing experience, and no one wants to see it, and so that's actually not a benefit towards the civilians. And so they really didn't have anything else in their case to back up anything else. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So our second voter issue deals with impact calculus. Okay. I don't know. I'm like, okay. So okay. So the first one.
Right.
Okay. No, wait. That's actually really scary. Okay. So basically, the affirmative team provides a magnitude of really negative detriments that are happening, whereas the affirmative team or the negation team, with not having the ground troops, actually provides a lot more benefits. For example, we're adding less people into the fight by not sending ground troops in. By not sending ground troops in, we're saving their lives, and by sending them in, we're not saving their lives. Well, duh. Okay, so basically, the magnitude of life should be valued greatly in this debate, especially since it is net benefits. And by sending these people to their deaths, it's not benefiting any country that are having their soldiers fight for them. Additionally, we're just furthering the fight, and as our second contention states, when we send ground troops in through, like for example, of Iraq and Afghanistan, we really aren't supporting the people, or we're actually adding more to the fight. And as a result, we're leading to more conflicts for relationships and for the people. And so, a war that could have been ended quicker is actually going to last, more decades. And so that's really not benefiting the people who are living there and the environment there as well, hurting their economy as well as ours. Also, by having the fight last longer, we're ruining foreign relations between different nations that could be beneficial in the future, but because of this fight, we're ruining that, and we're also hurting the people that are coming back and actually surviving. May survive. We're hurting them because they'll experience PTSD, and they really won't be able to get back from their traumatic experience. And the probability of setting of military troops going into Syria succeeding is very low, while as the negation team has proven, but the probability of the harms that's caused, the list of harms that we have stated, is very high. And so we can see that we shouldn't risk setting in these troops due to this fact of this magnitude of how much detriment it would cause because of it. Our third important issue deals with the criterion of net benefits and how net benefits is benefits for all, but because we're sending in troops, which the affirmative team is planning for, we are actually setting more harms and causing more harms economically, politically, and socially, because we're hurting the people in their mental health. We're killing them off, and we're hurting foreign relations that could be helping us, but instead we're wasting it upon sending troops in and provoking more war and more terror, adding more countries in to ruin the land. And so because sending in ground troops really won't help the situation, won't help stop the war, won't stop al-Assad, which is what we all want, and it proves so many detriments. I strongly negate the resolution.
Yes. I'm so tired. My head. I'm sweating.
I think you're sick, Meghan.
Do you have a headache?
Did you have a flu shot?
Yes.
I'm sweating. What?
Wait, what's the reasoning? This is under.
It's last half. Wait for 5 minutes.
Oh wait, I can wait.
So, as the last speaker of the affirmative side, I strongly affirm the resolution that NATO should send ground troops to defeat Bashar al-Assad of Syria. So, in this speech, I'm going to be going over various issues, and before I start, I would like to bring up the criterion of the round, which is net benefits. So first, I'm going to be doing a two-world comparison. So we're going to look at the app world, and then we're going to look at the neg world. Oh wait, no, we're going to look at the neg world, then we're going to look at the app world. Okay, so in the neg world, in the neg world, what's going to happen is that no ground troops are going to be sent to Syria. So no troops are going to be sent in, and this causes no help to the rebels that are trying to fight against Bashar al-Assad right now. So because they will get no help, no conflicts will be stopped, and they're not even going to be given aid to help stop. So then, on their own, even though they're already getting support right now, they're still struggling. So without the support of NATO, they're not going to be able to get anywhere, and none of these conflicts are going to stop. And then this will lead to lives lost. The civilians' lives will be lost, the lives of the rebels will be lost, and the lives of the people fighting against them will also be lost. So in all, there's going to be a lot of lives lost, and it's not going to be worth what's happening right now. And it's going to be people suffering, a lot of people suffering, including civilians and the people I went over before. And finally, there's going to be no net benefits. So in the neg world, what's going to be happening is if there are no ground troops sent in, there is going to be no benefits from it, and that does not go to the criterion of state, which is net. So now I'm going to be going over the app world. So what happens in our plan is that 10,000 ground troops are sent over to Syria to defeat Bashar al-Assad. So what's going to happen is troops are going to be sent, and the rebels are going to be helped. They're going to be sent aid from NATO. So they're going to actually be able to stop what's happening. So the conflicts are going to be helped or even stopped. So even if it's not going to be able to directly stop the conflicts immediately, there are going to be help stop. So it's going to be giving that next step. Yeah, so they're going to be giving help, they're going to be given aid, and that's what's going to happen. So there are going to be less lives lost, and there's going to be less people suffering. because when the rebels are going to be helped, they're going to stop the conflict that's happening right now. So when all the civilians' lives are going to be stopped, the lives of civilians are going to be stopped being lost, and the lives of the people in Syria are going to be helped. And then in all, there's going to be a net benefit. So in the app world, it's clearly better than the net world because we're seeing that lives are saved, the conflict stops, and there's going to be a overall net benefit. So now I'm going to be going over time frame. Not time frame. Never mind. I'm just going to be going on. Okay. So if we leave the problem to be and we continue to let it happen, what's happening right now, and no troops are going to be sent in, then the problem will just escalate. They'll just continue going what's going to happen right now, and then it's going to slowly get bigger and bigger because the rebels are not going to be helped, and right now they're not doing any damage right now because they're not getting any help. So if the rebels aren't helped, they're not going to be able to make a difference, and without NATO, they're not going to be able to do this. So if we don't stop it right now, the problem's just going to escalate and get bigger and bigger. And the longer we leave it to happen, the harder it's going to be to stop after this happens because the more power that the Bashar al-Assad gains, it's going to be way harder to take it down, especially if he gains the vote of the majority of the people there. And right now, he's being a dictator, but eventually over time, we don't know what's going to happen. So eventually, he could actually gain the support of the people, so that'll be just impossible for NATO to help or anyone to help them. So if we don't do it now, it's not going to help. So also, I'm going to go over the next slide right now because, so the next slide thinks that the airstrikes and the drones, not on the ground troops, will spill less blood. But it's actually not true. It's actually vice versa because when the airstrikes are going, there's going to be these big bombs, and there are going to be things that nobody can stop these airstrikes unless there's another airstrike going in, and that's not something that they have the resources for. So with these airstrikes, it's just going to be killing way more people, and as the firm said, we don't understand why the next side is saying that the ground troops are going to cause more bloodshed because when these bombs drop, the civilians are not only going to be hurt, but then everybody in this range are going to see what's happening. And they're going to know that what's happening is a problem, and they're going to be hurt. They're going to suffer from these what's happening right now because they're going to be seeing deaths. They're going to be seeing the bloodshed. So, and this is an inaccurate possibility because the ground troops will not shed as much blood as the airstrikes. So, as I said before, if this is going to escalate, so this is going to keep going, and there's so many lives that are already being lost. So if we just let this keep going, eventually there's just going to be an increase of these lives lost, and the magnitude of lives is going to overrule the resources that are going to be needed to send to them. So also, if we go with the app side, then eventually the refugees could go back to their homes. And these people right now, they're living in fear, they're living in terror. So if we're able to stop this conflict, these refugees could go back to their homes. And also the dictator could slowly be overthrown, and we're going to be able to actually help what's happening in Syria. So as the last speaker today, I strongly affirm this.
No,
This is not interfere at all.
Nice.
I feel proud to answer your comments.
I feel like Christy.
Yay! Okay, what do you want me to do though? Like for everyone?
You can do either overall or brief.
Alright, okay.
What do you do me first?
Fine. Alright, okay. Swathi. Okay, so, I don't think you list the criteria.